Thank you guys. That was enjoyable, Bruce. I got to go to your farm from here. That was neat. I look forward to visiting it in the future though, seeing those cows. Next we have Kate, is it Estrade? Kate Estrade, who I actually recognized from Reno a couple years ago. It's funny how you bump into people at these events and they look familiar, and it's normally another one of these events you saw them at. But happy to introduce her along with her husband Grant. They own and operate Local Cooling Farms. It's a diversified pasture-based farm where they raise beef, pork, goats, and eggs. And Laughing Buddha Nursery, their organic gardening store turned local grocery, where they sell their farm products along with chicken, seafood, dairy, produce, bread, rice, preserves, and more than 20 other farms and producers. Sounds like we all need to meet there to eat. She grew up in rural south of Madison, Wisconsin, surrounded by row crops and dairies. Her parents always grew a large vegetable garden and composted. In school, she never imagined going into agriculture. She studied journalism, so did I. University of Missouri, and held several reporting jobs prior to serving in the AmeriCorps and moving to New Orleans, where she worked as a fundraiser in nonprofits and universities for several years, where she met her husband Grant. Is Grant here?
You're right there.
Oh, there you go. At Laughing Buddha. Today, they still operate the store, which helps customers grow vegetables organically and now serve as their farm store. Kate developed the farm's neighborhood delivery hub model and online ordering platform where they sell a significant portion of their products. Kate?
Thanks. That was a little long. I'm gonna shorten that for the next person. Yeah, so I'm Kate. Grant's right there. And I can skip a lot of that but I guess today I'm gonna talk about a little about our farm, why we direct market, and a lot has changed for us in the last 3 years. But still a lot of what I have in this presentation is how you can get started with direct marketing with free tools before you're buying, the monthly subscription websites and all this stuff, before you know if it's really the direction you want to go, how you can build a customer base before you're kind of investing in the tech side of things to get started. So as he talked about, I grew up in Wisconsin, rural, surrounded by dairies and conventional grain farms. I never thought I would be a farmer, but a lot of the stuff that my parents did, that I thought having a garden, composting, you don't realize how much that makes an impact on you. So it's like when I went to college and was like, you gotta throw like coffee grounds in the trash. Like I don't know about that. So then at the end of college, I did an AmeriCorps project for 10 months with a team, traveled around the country in a 15-passenger van. And I had kind of read some books about regenerative, sustainable agriculture. And so in all of our downtime of not rebuilding houses or tutoring, I dragged them all to like urban gardens and stuff. And then in 2010, I moved to New Orleans to work at a nonprofit that my AmeriCorps team had worked in, rebuilding houses, doing development and marketing. And I met Grant at his garden store that already existed, Laughing Buddha, buying worms for my apartment compost bin. And then gradually, I guess, so 2010, by 2015, so Grant had this garden store. I guess I should back up. Grant had Laughing Buddha, organic gardening store, compost business, helping people grow vegetables. And he had partnered with a sand and aggregate company to launch a larger scale composting division for them. And that was like 2010 to 2015. So we had bought land in a failed subdivision, 65 miles north of New Orleans, kind of as like, honestly, we weren't necessarily thinking of farming professionally. It was like homestead, second home, camp, someday maybe kind of thing. No house on it or anything. And when he sold the shares of the composting division, still had the store, he quickly is like, well, I'm going to get the composting business set up now at the farm to keep being able to supply our retail customers. And I still kind of had this farming bug. We were gardening in our backyard and stuff like that. And so basically my timeline for joining the business just kept accelerating. It's like 2 years or so, like squirrel away, save up, and then a year, 6 months, tomorrow. And Grant and I think, are the kind of people, there's, a couple of different kinds of people in the world, but I'm kind of like a all or nothing. Just kind of have to leap and figure it out on the way down. And so that's what we did. So now we have the original 16 acres, and we also just bought acreage that we were leasing. So about 60 acres total. Our biggest enterprises are pork and, do I have more photos? Yeah, pork and fair to finish pork and egg layers. And then we do have cute little piney wood steers that we finish for beef. And the herd of goats was kind of like maintenance necessary for the early days, and we are going to be scaling them back a little. But we direct market everything. So we had the store. Our first products are frozen beef and eggs from our products, and so put a freezer in, put a fridge in, and we figured, these people that are growing vegetables in their backyard are a great starting place to sell to. But and the farmers market culture is a little weird in New Orleans, and it's like if you already have a brick and mortar, sort of like use your unfair advantage that you already have. And so rather than packing up frozen meat, refrigerated eggs, paying a farmer's market fee, going through all of that, not knowing how much you're going to sell. In New Orleans, it rains a lot, torrentially, and somehow the markets don't even have a great indoor option. So even if people are super well-intentioned and want to show up at the market, if we get last-minute rainstorm, you might be sitting there with, coolers full of frozen meat and then turn around and drive back home. So direct marketing in general, other presentations have kind of covered this, but for us, it's just allowing us to be small and kind of control the whole stage of the process. We're not relying on a middleman. We're deciding how much or how little that we, produce that year. And then it allows you to sell less, but since you're getting that middleman margin and you're getting the whole margin, you can be at a smaller scale in what you produce and still make a living. And then one thing that is, for me, and Grant too, really wonderful is in a business where you sell food, you get to see the same people, your same customers regularly. Like with the gardening store, if people are doing a good job, they might need soil once a year, if that, seeds, fertilizer, whatever. And so you might have wonderful people, but the food thing is a quality of life of man, you get to see the same people every week, every other week, know their families, know what they're cooking, know what they're eating, of your food. And that's been a really cool thing for us. So one thing that's kind of unique about New Orleans, I think other places are like this too, and it does relate to how most farms are situated. We're, 65 miles north of New Orleans. We have this kind of suburb metro area, more like 20 miles away. But even though our brick and mortar store is in metro New Orleans, we will do what other farms call, drop points or delivery hubs, or, taking pre-orders to go and meet people to pick up their orders even 15 minutes from our store. And that's just because New Orleans is surrounded by water, very neighborhood-based. 15 minutes is far to people. So even if you're not going, and some of our delivery hubs are 35 minutes from our store or so, but just meeting people where they are, I've just found, and marketing to their specific neighborhood just exponentially increases the number of people that would order instead of just offering hey, come to Metairie. So we started these. I'll never forget the, with meat, you've got a little wiggle room because you can flash freeze it at the butcher and you got some time. The Mardi Gras of 2017, we had gotten, a bunch more hens as chicks in the fall. And then there's a lull of not much sales going on during the week of Mardi Gras. And then I was like, oh man, we have so many eggs now. It's go time. I need to move these. And, fresh eggs last a while too, but that's the one thing if you're if you're used to frozen meat and stuff that needs to move. So I started just putting a simple Google form together. Maybe I didn't even use that. Maybe it was just text. And offering a delivery to my former colleagues at Tulane University in the afternoons. And we did broilers at the time. We had pork cuts. And it just kind of built from there. And I did transition to a neighborhood model eventually per the recommendation of someone who was buying from me. And again, with New Orleans being so neighborhood based, that really is what took off. So, we identify host captains, either someone's house or a business that is sort of simpatico with what we do. So for us, it's been yoga studios, a business incubator. Breweries are pretty fun. There's a lot of like local breweries that will host us. And then we give the host captain a discount and then referral discounts, if people are referring other customers. And we found with our meat, and I'm going to get to the other stuff that we sell from other farmers in a bit. Bi-weekly tends to be the sweet spot, but we've done weekly for certain neighborhoods. We've done monthly, just kind of playing around to see like when people want to restock and how much, and other things that might be unique to your specific area. One reason in our area that we found that people are not as into buying like halves and wholes of pigs and beef is because hurricane season lasts for half the year. And so you may have a generator, but it's still not super fun having lived through, running freezers on generators. So retail cuts that they can buy as needed has been a better fit for us. So this Google Forms is what I used in the beginning. It's totally free. There's no inventory management feature, but if you want to get started with something that you don't have to pay for, this is how you can do it. I think basically I would just I don't think if I click on this, I'll probably go to it. So, I'll just put everything that we have, check boxes, and then if something was on the brink of selling out, I would just have to pay attention to tracking that. Now there's a bunch of other options I listed here, Graze Cart, Barn to Door, all of those. We use a Canadian company called Localine. And, it offers inventory management, order, like different delivery routes and all kinds of stuff. So this is like our dashboard from yesterday. And the inventory management is like the best part. Okay, so we obviously don't grow apples or mushrooms or any of this stuff, but what happened is same time that I'm starting these delivery hubs, I love to take pictures and very visual, and I'm just feeling like I think that if we had more options and were more perceived as like a daily farmer's market, we would get more traction on selling our own products. And it also aligns with our values because we're not going to be growing everything that we consume. We certainly could, but if we want to have a viable business, you got to focus. And so it started with one produce farm delivering kind of extras from their CSA. And that really helped people to think of us of more of a one-stop shop, throwing like pork belly and sausage and stuff on a spread like this by itself, not as pretty, not as eye-catching. And of course, you probably don't eat just pork belly, right? You'd want something to go with it. And so we're able to buy from other farmers at a wholesale rate and then offer those products to our customer base too. So it started with produce. Before we were doing our own beef, we added beef right away. Dairy, and then even the value-added products just kind of grew from there. So now, like our cart right now, I think has like 250 products today of what people could go on and order. And so I cannot speak enough about working with other farmers because we don't have to be then limited by the rules of farmers markets. Like if a lot of small farms teamed up and sold each other stuff and divided and conquered of like, I'm closer to this area, you're closer to this area, the amount of people that we could reach would, be tremendous. And some of the people that we buy from do reciprocate and sell our stuff like at a farmer's market in a town like an hour away or so. But of course, like if you encounter farms that are selling out on their direct to consumer, like they should keep doing that But if they have extra and it makes sense to move a bulk amount to you, then it's win-win. And so that is, that's like an example of a hot sheet that I get from one of the produce growers, and Mr. Kenny Mote delivering us our weekly dairy. And so, of course, we make a margin on everything to handle it, to have the fridge space, to have the staff space and everything. But a huge part has just been building our customer base. They might not want pork and beef every week. They might not even need eggs every week. But, if we constantly have a wide variety of stuff to offer, then we keep them as a customer. We see them, we keep them engaged. And so it's definitely exponentially increased the sale of our own products because they're coming to us first for a huge percentage of their groceries. Okay, so kind of backing up of like, how do you, if you're trying to start direct marketing, like where do you start? Grant and I both in different phases of our lives, when he started the garden store and then more for me when we started the farm, went through this phenomenon of you sort of expect your friends and family to be like the first ones lining up, and that's not always the case. And it's easy to get offended by that, but it's like a weird psychology, I think, of business. Of some people, almost feel like they're doing you a favor by like not buying right away because they want you to like find your footing, or I guess I shouldn't really try to like diagnose it, but it's weird, and don't let that get you down. You have to just find your like-minded people who are going to be champions of your product, not because they are obligated to, because they're your friend or your family. So, CrossFit gyms, paleo and keto are still, very popular. Weston A. Price Foundation, sell your organ meats, to those folks if you're not familiar. And then building on that. It's like whoever you get in as a customer, get feedback, take care of them, and ask them to refer their friends. We started doing this in 2017, and I mean, just looking at the numbers and just how it grows on itself is really cool. But it's that persistent consistency of day in, day out, putting your content out there, and really taking care of the people that show up first, that are your first customers. And then again, the referral discount thing and the getting your champions to, champion you to other people is big. And then social media. It has changed a lot. So one hack that I found that I don't think works as well anymore. The short thing I want to say first is that Facebook and Instagram have built this huge platform. And in the early days, it used to be much easier to build a following organically. And now that they have that, they want you to pay for advertising. And that can be frustrating, right? But they've built this huge thing. And so you just kind of have to understand that this is the way that it works. And doing targeted ads is still so much cheaper than the Yellow Pages were even 15 years ago. And so it's just sort of the lay of the land. When I was building our following in 2016, 17, 18, I felt like it was still easier to get more organic growth. And I don't think it is anymore. But that doesn't mean there's not still tools and ways that you can use it. It's just don't feel like a failure if you're trying to really grow and you're not seeing that, because at the end of the day, of course, the whole point of doing this is to sell stuff. And so if your sales are growing, it doesn't matter the reach that you're getting, right? It's a tool, and the only metric that matters is sales. So this hack kind of still maybe works, maybe not. But if you have a business page, you're just inherently not going to get as much likes or traffic as a personal page or a group. And that's because they want you to pay to boost posts. They want you to do targeted ads, whatever. And it is what it is. We can't change it. So in New Orleans, again, really neighborhood-based, there were these neighborhood groups, and there still are, with 2, 3, 4, 5,000 members. And I would get permission to join and tell them what I was going to do, make sure I'm not breaking the rules, and then put posts together specifically for the groups, for those neighborhoods of we're coming every other week. here's what we have, here's pictures of it. And that, especially initially, got so much more traffic than anything I would ever put out on even if our page has 2,000 followers, like it just, and the group has the same number, it's just that they're prioritizing what's going in your feed. So if there are groups out there that you can join, paleo groups, neighborhood-based groups where you might be delivering, it's still a good option. It's just even those I've found don't get as much of the initial traffic as they used to. Instagram. So this is our farm, and then I keep a separate one for the store. But same thing. There's been a lot of changes. Instagram is always trying to keep up, and so they introduced stories to keep up with Snapchat. That seemed to sort of work. Now they're obsessed with Reels to try to stay relevant, and they're basically competing with TikTok. I don't have the patience. It's becoming to where that is more geared towards content creators and entertainment, right? And like that's not my goal. So I have, maybe 4 times the followers that I had 3 years ago, but my post engagement is way lower. Like, do I really care? No, because our sales are still growing. And so I treat our Instagram and our Facebook as ways to keep our following and our local current customer base engaged, and there are people that read every word I post and just want to know everything that's going on with every new animal, and they could tell you everything that I put on there, and you still and the reason that I still foster that is because we're not doing the best on tracking analytics anymore. Just with our new software, I haven't really put together how you found us. Formalized thing when people sign up to be a customer. But when we did on our old system, every time, new customers, a third or half of them would say Instagram. So I think there's an element of legitimacy. If a local person encounters you and they see all this content and they see followers and activity, there's a little bit of built-in legitimacy of okay, they're real, they're cool. I'm gonna go ahead and maybe buy from them sooner than I would if I just encountered them and it was, but it takes time. It is a time commitment. It's kind of a creative outlet for me. So it's a tool. The most important metric is sales, not, social media engagement. And then this, I guess I'll go back and say, we have never paid for advertising yet. And we have seen big growth. Obviously, COVID was an anomaly, and we couldn't have predicted that or been better positioned for all of a sudden all these people eating from home, and wanting local food. But we have hung on to our sales. We didn't retain every customer. We didn't maintain the daily volume that we had of sales in March through May of last year. But we're only down about 6% this year. And 19 to 20 pretty much doubled our sales. So it's the first year that we're not growing, but I'm hanging on by less than 5% down is good. And so 2022 for us is the first time that we're going to focus on actually doing Facebook ads, actually doing some targeted, because I feel like we've kind of reached the max of our natural organic growth through social media. And this class is something I did last year, so I'm going to give her a little plug. There's 12 modulars. It's a homesteader who's done a lot of online marketing for not only her own homestead business, but other businesses. And it really breaks down, if you are starting from scratch, building a website, and then for me, the reason I bought it is just the Facebook module alone, because it's a lot of detail on Facebook Ads Builder. One thing that Facebook does is it encourages you to boost a post and pay for that. And that is 100% always gonna get way, way, way less. It's their cheap shot, let's just get some money from them. If you build an ad from scratch that's targeted in a different way, way more reach. And you have kind of more control over the demographics and everything. So if you take one thing away, don't boost posts, build an ad from scratch. And since I think the Facebook module alone is 2 hours. So it really goes into depth of holding your hand. You have access to it forever. And so I'm using, it took me a whole year to kind of get through it on my downtime. And so next year for us is, adding more to our website and really tackling actual paid advertising. So that is, that's what I've got, and I would love to answer questions. Go ahead. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I do sometimes, and I used to engage with them. I actually have a whole highlight. I don't think it's showing up anymore. One of these circles, is story highlights. I have a whole highlight of responses to vegans called like defending meat or something. And I would do that mostly because like I'm not going to change their minds, but I sometimes can't help myself. And if I post it for the rest of our folks to see, it always was like a huge rallying point, and it's kind of sad because it's like people just love controversy. And so it's like you kind of have to decide like how much you want to play into that. Like now it's coming out how much Facebook has prioritized like angry reactions and, now it seems like in the last couple of years there has been some more like extreme vegan stuff. And so I would say I don't seek it out. And now sometimes if I don't have time or they seem like real sketchy, I just block them and move on. But sometimes, I'm just like respectful and lay out our views and stuff and point out their hypocrisies and then, post it to where our following can see and our following can feel like good about, because they're not as experienced in defending all these answers and they just want to do the right thing. And so when a farmer is explained that they're buying from is explaining like, no, do not let yourself feel like bullied of not eating meat or something. But the weirder stuff I've seen is like this one farm who has a pretty big following. They do Highland cows in Wisconsin. Like this vegan group like took their name and made that a hashtag and put it on all kinds of like slaughterhouse videos and stuff. And like you can't really then control that if it's just a hashtag. So like sometimes you just got to know to be like just block and move on. And then I'm careful what I post and how much I share too. So like sometimes you want support of like the litter of piglets that half of them got crushed or whatever. But if it can be like twisted and, taken out of context, then it's like, that's something you can tell your farmer friends in real life and not have to show everything. Like I do try to be transparent and give our customers and our following like, sort of more of the real side of it. But there's kind of like a fine line. Yeah. Yes.
Curious about the food, the neighborhood hub models. Can you expand on that a little bit? And,
yeah.
I thought I heard that you go and drop it off, but then you have a captain and.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So there is and we modeled this after Polyface. They're Metro buying clubs. They're going sometimes 4 hours away, right? And they're doing typically like. People's houses. They found that people's houses and a host captain work better for them. For us and like the social vibe of New Orleans and the way that I do marketing on social media, we did some at people's houses initially and then we transitioned to public places where we could kind of co-brand with the brewery. So what we do is, and interestingly, this is just super unique to our situation, but I was doing so much pushing of these hubs before COVID, even though we have a brick and mortar, sometimes 15, 20 minutes from where these people live, that they could shop any day of the week, Saturday, once COVID hit, we stopped doing that because we just had so much volume of like, okay, if we just stage all these orders throughout the day at the store, we can serve so many more people. So during that time, I realized a lot of our customers didn't even fully process that we had a brick and mortar. So after 6 months, we started doing the delivery hubs again, like last fall. And some of our people who live in these neighborhoods that always picked up at their delivery hub now come to our store. Because they're like, I can come anytime. I don't have to go in this 2-hour window on every other week. But so what we do is, they place pre-orders, there's a deadline, and then most neighborhoods are every other week in the evening. so we can hit the after work hours. We're gonna try a Friday morning at this bakery that has a huge following that we sell eggs to, starting in the new year, and then a Saturday morning one as well. But the after work, like busy people that work that want to come 10 minutes from their house and pick up an order has been what's worked best for us so far. And we do not ask anything of the host. We do it. And so I did them all in the early days. I've had staff do them since. And now I'm going to be doing a few while I try to find another person. And then I have a new staffer that'll be doing like 3 per week. So yeah. So it's kind of, and we do offer home delivery before for a higher price now, because people have kind of adjusted to Instacart and all these grocery stores delivering during COVID. But that I feel like will take off even more once we start to do some advertising, because the people that are currently on our list are on our list because our model like works for them, right? Like if there's people that are like, I can't even, that's like witching hour for my kids, putting them to bed, I have little kids, like whatever, like I can't even make it to go pick up, but they maybe would do home delivery, but we might not be on their radar right now. So I feel like to really capitalize on home delivery, it's reaching new people that have opted out before because of the model doesn't quite fit for their lives. So.
You send out separate emails to each
Yes, I do. So, that's a good, I didn't even really go into email marketing. So I'm unique in that because we built our customer base on these hubs, I have everyone segmented to their neighborhood. And some people are on more than one list. And we use MailerLite. We did use MailChimp initially. We transitioned to MailerLite. Love them. They're cheap and they don't like max out they're great. Like that is a fantastic company that I didn't recommend, but MailerLite is our email. So, we just got different segments of the list by neighborhood, and the most people will get an email from us is once a week and then the whole like list of people that are store pickup, they get an email newsletter once a week, and then the neighborhoods whose hubs are happening that week get one earlier in the week. And then I'll like exclude, if you're on multiple lists, I'll exclude you, so you're not getting 2 emails from us in a week kind of thing. And I found that is huge for open rates and stuff. If I have the name of the neighborhood in the subject line versus just something more generic. So, and I mean, New Orleans, again, I know it's unique and it's like neighborhood pride and stuff, but yeah, that's been big, like marketing to the specific neighborhood. They might not have a nearby farmer's market, whatever, but like we come to them every other week. So, yeah.
Your logistics of transporting your goods. Do you
Um,
are they pre-packed per person?
Yes. Okay. Great question. We're like, again, cheap and easy. Like, don't let the perfect get in the way of the good. Don't have huge upfront investment costs. So we don't have a refrigerated truck. We just buy like the coolers from Target or Walmart. We have some bigger ones that we'll use for produce, but then meat, you can't be packing too much in like a big long one because it's not liftable. So we try to make everything, liftable for one person if they're going to the hub by themselves or if it's me. And yeah, we just do, it's all pre-packed. And we just do a lot of detailed labeling and spreadsheets. We'll put frozen meat with their dairy because it's low temp pasteurized. So like I'm obsessive about it being cold. It goes with the frozen stuff. And then produce together with eggs. And then if we're in a season where we have lots of sweet potatoes, tomatoes, things that are not refrigerated, we sell olive oil from Texas and pecan oil, then that'll all go in like a box. And so then when you're there, it's like you've got your list plus their invoice. And it's like, okay, I have a fridge bag, I have a frozen bag, and I have a bouquet of flowers or something. So so that's what we do. And like other farms use, branded swag bags that are insulated and stuff. I don't know. We may do that eventually for like the produce items because then you don't have as much bulky, you can fit more if you're just boxes and bags. But for the frozen stuff in our climate, it's so hot so much of the year that it's like, I just don't want to risk. And it's not even it's the dairy. It's not even, the meat won't defrost that fast, but the dairy can't lose temp, so.
Do you have a special like arrangement or whatever with your harvest person for your
Yes. So we right now we do pork, beef, and goat ourselves. Our goat, there's a halal processor an hour away that we use for our beef and goat, and they, got super busy, but they've been able to keep servicing us, and they can take appointments in a reasonable amount of time. We don't have to book out like a year in advance or anything. And then pork is the more challenging thing. We bounced around. Our latest butcher, we're sending them to Birmingham, which is 5 hours away. And they are scaling back and just processing. It's a farm that bought a processing facility for themselves and then took on other farms, and they're backing out of that. We've got a couple new ones that are opening. But we do one thing, because our butchers are so far away and always have been. 2 years ago, we were researching freezer rental space. So we have about 8 freezers at our store, but we also now stock seafood and chicken from another farm. So it's not gonna fit all the animals we'd like to process. Didn't really wanna build a walk-in at the farm. Again, hurricane season and just owning that equipment and the maintenance and everything. And so we had a hard time finding somebody that would just take 1 pallet initially. And because people told, like 1 pallet, no, we don't want to deal with you. And then we found out the food bank has public warehousing freezer rental space, which is earned revenue for them. And then they've been fantastic to work with. So, they charge a receiving fee and then a per month per pallet fee. And so we just will try to maximize the load, particularly on the hogs if they're going farther, so we can maximize it in both directions and have the fuel cost portion of the meat passed on to the customer be lower. And so we'll do like 16 pigs at a time. So I have quite a lot of pork in the freezer at our freezer rental right now, and then we do have to figure out next year, but there's 2 USDA facilities coming online, 1 an hour and 1 2 hours from us, and then 2 newish state facilities. So yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah. We've done, so we haven't done shipping, and we've just sold in Louisiana. Right now, everything's USDA, but like worst case, if we had to get some hogs processed, we've never really sold outside of Louisiana anyway, so that would be fine.
Doing
Then you.
retail cuts, this is specifically the beef.
Yeah.
Have y'all had trouble moving the roast cuts?
Actually, no, not really. So, but one thing that's we do Piney Woods, which is this small heritage breed. And we're not doing mama cows or anything. We're just buying steers from our neighbors and stuff, and we may move to something else, or maybe even grandma's do cull cows. But since they're a smaller frame, like they put on fat intermuscular marbling at a smaller size, and then it's just like the steak to roast ratio on those smaller animals is better. And so we did do some beef sausage with our pork processor right before they quit on us. But we really, we're low on beef. We need to get more processed. And what I actually pile up on is sirloin and sirloin tip, oddly, because it's a big primal, and I don't really want to grind it or do kebab or stew meat because I can charge so much less for that. So I think it's because it's like a mid-priced cut. It's not a ribeye or filet or T-bone, and it's not like a flank. It's like right in the middle there. And so I would rather just charge where it needs to be in the like high to low, and then put it on sale and give recipes for it and push it, than cut it differently, I would say. So, and then right now we have ground beef left and we have bones left, but like they're gonna move before we get in other stuff. Yeah.
No, you had a question, Mark.
All your sales tax, do you have to do sales tax on
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite of the 20th of the month. So we don't have to charge. Food for home consumption is not taxed in Louisiana, and then so you just charge the parish or the county. I mean, it's going to be different in every state and county. And then there's an exemption for, if you're the producer. So what I do is I don't have to charge sales tax on my eggs, pork, beef, and goat, the things I produce. And then I do have to charge the food tax, which is just half on all the resale stuff. And then obviously the full tax on the gardening products and soil and stuff. So yeah, it's a fun time. It used to be way easier, but oddly with our new software, they just didn't think about reporting as much. So I have to sort a 700 column spreadsheet every month. It's my favorite day of the month. So, yeah.
Usually around